Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. My name's Mark. This is the Football Diary podcast, the first one of many, hopefully. We're going to be talking all things England today, just on the back of international weekends. And I'm joined by Myles and Dave. How you doing, guys? You all right?
Roberts.
Nice one. So England, I'm guessing you've both seen the game that's just been on. Bit of a mixed bag of games the last two games, and Southgate's mixed up his team quite a bit just to experiment, which is natural. I'll go to you, Myles, first. What are your thoughts from what you've seen? What do you make of the England squad and the England first 11? And you know, what have you learned from the games we've just watched?
I think it's hard to judge a lot about England in terms of where they'll be in the summer by these games. There's a lot of key players missing, a lot of big injuries. But the first thing that I noticed was that sense of togetherness was still there in the camp, even with the changes. I think back to the first game, and maybe it's just me being biased from my opinion, but seeing the reaction when Ollie Watkins gets his debut goal and how much it meant to them as a camp and how well they integrated Lingard back in, for example, showed that Southgate's managed to maintain that mentality of, going to England camp's fun and we're a good group together. And I think that could take you far in a tournament. It did for us at the World Cup. It did for Wales at the last Euros. So building that sort of mentality could be really beneficial for us.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think you hear stories from the past about England's golden generation and the likes of like Lampard and Terry saying, we just hated each other. We were too competitive in club football. So when it came to the England setup, we just didn't want to talk to each other. There was no togetherness at all. I think you can see for many of the players that they fought through have come through the under-21s, the under-18s, the under-16s, and you could tell they kind of know each other, like each other, and play pretty well, which is leaps and bounds from what we've seen in the past, I reckon. Dave, did you watch the games? What did you reckon?
Yeah, I don't think you could really take much from the first game as such, obviously with the competitive nature of it. But I think, like Maya was obviously touched upon, it was good to see some of the more inexperienced lads coming in. And, I think it couldn't have been a better game for them to make a mark, really. There's some good goals in there, but you've got to say that those players wouldn't have got that time and space in the opposition box in Premier League or any competitive league.
No, I think that's the thing. The opposition can't really be read into too much, can it? I mean, San Marino was a weird one. We knew it was going to be a big scoreline, but a lot of players got a run out. So who do you think are the winners and who's sweating on their Euros place after the last two games, Myles?
The obvious one for me is Nick Pope. I think given Pickford's inconsistencies, Southgate's stuck with him this time for this long because he's obviously got a close relationship with the camp. But a couple more caps, couple more clean sheets, and the season that he's having with Burnley again, I think that's the position that you look at most and go, I'd make a change there. And I think Pope for years could feel hard done by not getting in the team sooner. So I would say Nick Pope probably could stake a claim, and I think Calvin Phillips as well. I was yet to be convinced on Calvin Phillips for a while, but he is having a good season with Leeds. And again, just the more he continues to play for England, the more he does the job that's needed of him. And I think against opposition like we've had over the last week, do you need those deeper midfielders? Maybe not. But when he gets to tournament level, and some of the sides you're going to play, players like Declan Rice, Calvin Phillips, all of a sudden they will become a lot more necessary. So I think they're the two that I would look at and go, yeah, they've probably gone up in my estimations of who would go in the squad.
Okay, what about who's at risk?
Trent really? And Henderson for Liverpool. I think if Liverpool continue to have the season they have, I know Henderson might be a fitness concern anyway, but with the plethora of right backs that England have got at the moment, to me, the best right back England have is still not in the squad, and it's not Trent. I would have Wan-Bissaka every day for England. I think England need to learn their level. They're not Belgium, they're not Germany, they're not France. They are a side that will get by if they can have a solid foundation with the attacking talent they've got at the top to produce on a counter. The same as Man United have set up in many ways this season. If you have Shaw and Wan-Bissaka doing those defensive jobs, but also players like Kane and Rashford and Sterling and Sancho in front, that's a much better recipe for me. Players that don't often have to do much defending aren't what you need for England. So if you see the frailties of Trent or Reece James going back, Wan-Bissaka, to me, he's the best defensive right back I've seen for a long time.
That's an interesting take, because I mean, every commentary I've seen on the England setup has meant that the fans are looking for, and journalists as well, are looking for their attacking players to really kick on and to not be so conservative with, especially the midfield setup. Dave, who do you think is in danger of losing their squad place come the Euros, based on what you've seen in the last 2 games?
I don't think, like Myles obviously already touched upon, I think Trent is one you'd probably say is maybe not at danger of losing his space, but probably not being in the starting 11 for sure. I think you can still question his defensive ability, especially if you play in a back 4. I think he definitely suits like a back 3 if he's playing in that wing back position a lot more than he does in a back 4. So if you're playing back 3 centre backs and then 2 wing backs, then I think I think he plays that really well. But I think if you're playing a back 4, I think Reece James is better defensively than Trent, and he offers more. He offers a similar sort of output going forward as well. You've seen for Chelsea this season. So I think personally, if I was going to play back 4, I'd play Reece James at right back. What we've got at the minute. But if it was wing back positions, I think either Reece James or Trent would be good options for that position. But it just depends on the opposition. If you're playing similar teams to what we've been playing these last couple of games, then you can get a back 4. There's no need to play a back 3.
In the squad this time, though, there's 2 right backs that none of us have mentioned, and Kyle Walker and Trippier. I'd take Walker definitely, and I wouldn't be sad to see him play at right back.
I think, like you say, Trippier's a very good right back. But I think if you're thinking about the future, and would we really miss him that much in this next tournament? When you look at the talent up there, probably not.
Right back, I think we're particularly stacked at right back. There's some we haven't even mentioned from some of the non-top 6 Premier League teams that aren't even on the fringes yet. So talented setup at right back. Difficult choice for Southgate to make. Trippier and Walker seem to be the favourites, I think, from Southgate's point of view. But it depends, like you say, who we're going to line up against, and whether we want to bomb forward and attack, or whether we want to play a little bit deeper and absorb any pressure. What were you going to say then, Dave? Something more on the right back situation?
For instance, some of the centre backs, the centre back at Liverpool, Joe Gomez might potentially not be fit. I'd happily bring in Ben White from Brighton and put him in the squad, because he's done brilliantly this season.
Do you know what? That makes me sad, because you're missing the most obvious one. And I drew out who I would take in the squad earlier. And again, I'm a bit biased. If Ezri Konsa isn't considered for the England squad this summer, then Southgate's had a mare. The fact that he looked at Watkins, he's still taking Mings, shows that he's obviously noticed Villa's form in some ways this season. Ezri Konsa has been fantastic. Only Man City have kept more clean sheets than Villa, and Konsa and Mings have been integral to that.
I think the stats for Konsa have been one of the highest for his position. I'm sure he's been looked at, but as you say, if we've got the likes of Kieran Trippier, we haven't even mentioned yet as an option between the 3 of us, struggling to get in, or Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's considering not even being an England international come the end of this next international wave of games. He could pledge allegiance to, is it Congo? I think he's
it is.
All right. There's so much to choose from there, and for me, I would say personally at right back, if we're talking about that position, Trent Alexander-Arnold is the best attacking right back we've got, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka is the best defensive right back we've got. And I think you've just got to have each of them to cover your bases. Unfortunately, that means Kyle Walker, one of the most experienced players, is not going to make the cut, which is crazy.
That's why I take him, because I do think you want to harness some of that atmosphere that we had from the World Cup, and I do think you need a winning mentality. And off the back of the season Liverpool have had compared to the season that City have had, having Walker and Stones around the camp, I think, will be really important personally. And I think we've got such good attacking talent that we don't really need to rely on our right back to be our attacking outlet. It's great as an added addition, but for me, I don't think there's the value in Trent being in an England side. He's great for a team like Liverpool where Van Dijk's behind him. But you've seen when he hasn't got a consistent centre-back by him, and he might have Harry Maguire next to him, I wouldn't bank on that. I wouldn't trust that as an England fan.
So I've got a message from Chris there. I don't know if you can see it, but who plays in your first choice back four for the Euros based on performances throughout the season? So interesting take on Trent, he says, but he agrees with you, Myles. What are your thoughts, guys? What's your back four, Dave?
I go Reece James, John Stones, and Maguire and Luke Shaw, left back.
Reece James. I've not even considered Reece James. I really haven't. I know he's well thought of by Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea. It's his kind of player. But again, is he better than Trent?
I think what you highlighted, Myles, is that what you were just saying, Mike, that you need one of each, and he does offer a bit of both. He can defend, can attack, and I think that's probably what Southgate is after, and that's the reason why Saka isn't getting in the squad. He's just not, in my opinion, at the level that we need him to be on the ball at the minute. That goes for England and Man United.
If you've got any more comments and you're watching, just ping them across and we'll talk through them. We've also got a Discord server which is going across the bottom of the screen. So if you want to join that and continue the conversation, that'll be amazing. So with that in mind and the things we've spoke about so far with England, difficult question. What's your first choice starting 11? Let's start with goalkeeper. Myles, what's your thoughts? Who's the standout first choice if everybody's fit?
It's got to be Nick Pope to me now. As much as I love Pickford for the Colombia penalty save and just get the rave on, he's hilarious. It's Nick Pope all day. I think if Dean Henderson had played more consistently this season, he probably would have been in for a good chat, and maybe he'll keep the Man United spot since De Gea's been gone. But I think it will be Nick Pope. I'd take Henderson, and I would still take Pickford to have him in the squad. But Sam Johnson can feel hard done by not making the squad. I did think it was nice to get a call up for him.
Yeah, definitely. I think with Jordan Pickford, though, he's built a system around him that the defence seems to know pretty well. So playing out from the back, although he does look a bit tentative sometimes, Jordan Pickford seems to be the best goalkeeper for that kind of setup. I think Dean Henderson will be world class, but like you say, he hasn't had enough chance. And Nick Pope's just been outstanding for seasons now, hasn't he? So I'm so pleased he's taking his chance and doing pretty well. What are your thoughts on the goalkeeper position, Dave?
Yeah, I think I'll go with what Myles said. I think the only thing is, obviously, with Nick Pope, what you can say is that he's obviously a safe pick. He's played football for obviously all season. You could easily say, I know, if Dean Henderson was to get a few games until the end of the season, you never know. But I think if Pickford isn't fit, then it looks like it's going to be Pope. And then who knows? Obviously, I think it's up for grabs still. Potentially, you never know.
Yeah.
But I think since Henderson's come into United, going forward, like our transition through defence into midfield and attack, we've actually scored 2 or 3 goals just from him, from his throws up to halfway line. I do think Southgate, being the manager that he is, I do think he's a bit of a safe manager. He does in way pick his favourites. So I personally believe if Pickford was fit, he'd still be picking Pickford, just because I think for England he's not really done a lot wrong. You can say that he definitely has for Everton, but I think Pope is probably the one.
Are you saying that Pope is your first choice when everybody's fit and available?
I think what you can say about England goalkeepers, I think they all have got their own strengths. I think for me, Pickford's probably he can make some absolutely world-class saves, but he has got a bit of inconsistency in him, and he doesn't. I wouldn't say he offers the commanding of his area. I think in terms of being safe and actually feeling safe, like that back four, especially United have looked a lot like they've felt a lot safer with Dean Henderson behind them than what they have De Gea, just because he does command his area, comes out for crosses, he claims, I think his communication is top notch.
He's very vocal, Dean Henderson, and I think you can tell Solskjaer's tried to sort of condition him to play out from the back as well, because he desperately wants him to be that kind of keeper. So potentially in the future he will be that kind of player, but I reckon Southgate's going to go for Pickford.
I think Nick Pope's more of an all-rounder, really. I think he's very solid in what he does in terms of his distribution, his shot stop, his handling of the ball are all really on a
Pope does the fundamentals. Pickford has tendencies to be a bit erratic, but for me, my goalkeeper, the first thing I wanted to do is save shots. And Pope is battered with shots playing at Burnley and has a great record doing so. And in a tournament, I would rather have safety. Pickford is just as likely to make some amazing saves as he is to probably get a red card or something. Like, I always feel a bit nervous, and it's exciting to watch. But as a fan, I bet he's. If I was an Everton fan this season, I'd be going mad about it.
He's got a bit of a hot head. I think he reminds me a bit of Joe Hart. You know, when he used to psych himself up for games, and you just think, "Calm down, mate. Come on, it's San Marino. Chill out." But I think Southgate will pick him. He's proved him to be good for him, especially at the World Cup, and I think that's still strong in his mind. And for the same reason, I think he'll choose Walker and Trippier, because I think they still carry a lot of favour from their World Cup performances.
I think what you were touching upon on Walker, I think what you're saying about him, I think he's a slot in for that back three centre backs on the right side.
Walker.
Just because he mops up. If we got, for instance, Trent in that right wing back role, any ball comes in behind, he does cover those channels quite well defensively. So I think, I
think are we in agreement about the back four, or is that still kind of in debate? So Stones and Maguire at the back, is that unanimous?
No,
Myles. Why? What's your thoughts?
It depends. It depends on whether we play a back four or a back five. I think there are some games that Southgate will definitely want to play a back five. I think if we came up against the likes of Belgium, for example, with some attacking flair there, I think he'd probably want to move to a back five to be safer. In that case, then Maguire gets in for me. If we're playing a back four, I wouldn't pick Maguire on form this season.
Wow.
I would pick John Stones, and I'd pick Tyrone Mings. I like the idea of having a left footer in there as well. I think you need pace at international level that Maguire doesn't seem to have at the moment. And I think collectively, I can't see how Tyrone Mings doesn't get in the starting 11 anymore. Maybe it's bias, but he's big, he's powerful, he's fast, and he commands and leads. One of the best things about football without fans these days is hearing the pitch. And all you can hear when Tyrone Mings plays is him commanding defence. And it's worked. Yeah. He's had a great season.
I think the interesting point you made about him being left-footed could really make a difference for the shape of the defence, because I think the last thing we want to see is a panic defence when they're up against it, the pressure's on. You don't want to see somebody who should be left-footed on the left side of that central defence trying to clear it with their right foot, and people pressing them knowing that they've got a weaker foot and it's on the wrong side of where it should be. So Mings is an interesting option there, I think. I'll be honest, I haven't seen much of Mings this season. I saw more of him last season, where he was arguably better than he's been this season. As a Villa fan, Myles, how do you rate his performances so far this season for Villa?
So Mings obviously came into Villa in the Championship and transformed our season there. And then last season, defensively, we were shocking. We were absolutely shocking until the break. And Smith and Terry clearly worked with them heavily. And this season, having the safety of Emi Martinez behind has obviously helped. Ezri Konsa, I think, was bought as someone for the future and has developed way quicker than they thought. And I think Mings plays a massive part in that. He's been commanding, he's strong. There's been games where I think Villa fans look to him and question him a little bit more than perhaps he should have come under scrutiny. Yeah. I think, for example, the Man United game, there was a lot of people thinking, oh, maybe he could have got rid of that cross that Martial scores from and things like that. But Mings he's got a great left foot on him. He can put a great ball up the field, and he likes to look for that as well. He's powerful, he's strong, and he's fast as well. He's got a good break of pace. He just reads the game well. If you put a ball in the box, I feel confident as a Villa fan this season that if Martinez isn't catching it, Mings or Konsa will head it away. They win everything. And at international football and tournaments, they're the margins that you got to play with. I watch Maguire, and if a ball's put into the box, I think he's probably going to leave it and not notice a striker running in behind him, because I've seen him do it countless times for United.
Well, I think Maguire's always, I think it's for United anyway, struggles with Victor Lindelof alongside him. Although Solskjaer insists on playing those two players together, they're just not a very vocal duo. And I think you're right. If Maguire had somebody more vocal next to him, he would be a better player. John Stones is not a very vocal player either. They both play quite mobile on the floor, forward-playing defenders, really. They're all quite comfortable on the ball, both of those. There's not really a blood and thunder centre-back there, is there? There's not really somebody with a presence to just leap in from a set piece and head the ball away, as much as Tyrone Mings probably does statistically for Aston Villa. Dave, are you saying... it sounds to me like you're agreeing with me that John Stones, Myles, should be a definite starter at centre-back, which is amazing considering his journey over the last year.
Yeah. I think it will be Stones and Maguire. I think that's what Southgate will pick because he trusts them both, particularly Maguire. And I think quite often he'll move to a back five, and that's where you might see Mings come in on the left-hand side, or like Dave said, bring Kyle Walker back there, or Connor Cody is the other one that neither of us talked about. And I always think Conte should have a chance. But if it were me picking a back four, I'd pick Stones and Mings.
Dave, are you saying John Stones is a starter, or what's your pairing at the centre-back position?
It's a toss-up for me, really. I personally think, we'll go for Maguire and Stones, but it depends if you're getting the Stones of the World Cup 2018 or the Stones of this season, Man City, where he's looked brilliant alongside Diaz.
That's the thing. He's played alongside Ruben Diaz, who's been the making of John Stones really this season. He's not going to play alongside that kind of player this time around. So picture him alongside Harry Maguire. Is that going to fit for John Stones, or does he need somebody else to get the best out of him?
Oh, you could say that for both players. What do you need the best out of both? It's not just the John Stones, is it? It's and I don't think England have found that really.
No, the compatibility between the two players needs to be there. Are we saying that maybe Maguire and Stones aren't as compatible as Southgate thinks they might be then?
Potentially, but it's hard to say because how many, apart from obviously I think the Nations League's been really good because you've seen a lot of competitive teams facing up to each other, but it's a bit iffy at the minute, all these international games, because we're not even seeing him playing a consistent team to see what is his best 11. So you're going on a lot of Premier League footage, obviously throughout the season. If you think, who will complement each other, it's difficult to say. I do think, maybe the safe bet is Stones and Maguire, but
hard to say really. So centre back, Maguire and Stones, we think will happen. We think Tyrone Mings is in with a really good shout of maybe taking the place of Maguire, I would say.
One of the two, wouldn't it? Yeah. The only thing that you'd argue is defending for Man City is such a different job to defending for England. And both Stones and Maguire, as weird as it sounds, aren't really defensive centre-backs anymore. Maguire loves to bring the ball forward. Stones loves the time on the ball that he gets at Man City, and they won't get that for England. I do think there is value in England. Do you know what? Someone a bit lower down the league who has to do more defending, that's close. Like Dave says, we don't really know what England are going to play like right now. So replicate that as best possible. You could play that whole back four, but maybe that's just me saying that.
Right back, Trent Alexander-Arnold then potentially.
Yeah.
No, I don't think he'll go. I honestly don't think he's going to take him. Southgate has never favoured him though, really, if you look at it. If you look at how many caps Trent's had, considering how long he's been in the Liverpool team, he always goes with Walker and Trippier. Yeah, and even then, I think we're missing players. I don't think it will be Trent. I think he'll probably pick between Walker and Trippier, and it should be Wan-Bissaka.
That's just so sadly predictable, isn't it? The probably most valuable right back in world football not going to an international tournament.
Is he though?
Madness. Yeah, I think statistically he's the most valuable right back, which is crazy to think that he's not going to be included in an England team.
Cash value, yes, but for what he brings on the pitch, particularly at the moment, I'm not sure he is.
Okay, so you're saying right back first choice, not Trent. You're saying who, Myles?
If it were me picking the team tomorrow, it'd be Wan-Bissaka. I think it will be Kyle Walker.
Okay, so you prefer to see Wan-Bissaka get that starting position? Okay,
definitely.
Dave, what are your thoughts?
I'll go with Reece James. Personally, if you put James in there, I don't see what the difference is between picking Kieran Trippier and Reece James. Reece James got a brilliant delivery. He's good stuff. And Trippier's not especially the best defender in the world. So I don't really know, there's a few good free kick takers in the England team. So I don't think they're missing out a lot from omitting Trippier from there. So
I think left back is interesting as well because Chilwell's had the run of that for the last year, hasn't he? But Luke Shaw is probably the form player in the England setup at the moment. It certainly is for Manchester United. So is Shaw starting ahead of Chilwell for you guys? Just give me a thumbs up if you think yes. Shaw first choice. Yeah, there we go. No more said. Although Chilwell's an interesting alternative, definitely. But yeah.
What I will say about tonight, watching Luke Shaw play in that England team, it doesn't quite look like they know how to involve him in attacks. There wasn't really many instances when he was kind of overlapping, and Sterling wasn't sure when he was going to go, when he wasn't. And when you've got Rashford on that left wing, I'm not saying Rashford in there at the minute because obviously he's been virtually playing injured since October, and he has kind of not been performing quite as well. But him and Shaw have got a great understanding, so I do think Southgate will go with Rashford off of the left.
Okay. Yeah. So in the midfield, I'm thinking 4-3-3 is the potential formation. With two wide players flanking Harry Kane, two forward wide players. The makeup of the middle three is going to be an interesting challenge, I think. Hear me out. I want to see Gareth Southgate be less conservative. So for me, I can throw out the window two holding midfielders. So you either play Declan Rice or someone like Calvin Phillips. Not both together, definitely not. If you play Jordan Henderson, he has to be further forward. So I'm thinking in front, and potentially someone like Phil Foden alongside him, behind the front three. I need to see your guys' reaction to that because I can't at the minute. What are your thoughts on that midfield three, and what would your balance be? I can see you disagree straight away. So, Myles, I'll start with you.
I don't disagree with the formation or the setup. I think there is a place for two holding midfielders deeper in the tournament. So I would definitely take Phillips. But if it were me, I would start with Rice as the holding midfielder, which doesn't overwhelm me, I'll be honest. But I don't think England are blessed with the best choices of holding midfielder right now. I think Rice is probably the best of them. And again, has hit some good form with West Ham. I would have Mason Mount alongside him in the midfield as the number 8. Yeah. He can play there. He's done so. And Southgate likes him. He's going to play. And then the number 10, it's an easy one for me. I know that Southgate might like to play him on the left wing, but it's got to be Grealish. It's got to be Grealish, giving him the positional freedom of putting him down the middle. It's where he plays his best football. He plays on the left.
Do you think Grealish in a midfield position then? Because for me, he's always an attacking left-sided player in the Marcus Rashford position. I can see him really unlocking defences there, but you think in midfield a little bit further back?
He's had to be on the left for years because Villa haven't been blessed with the best wingers over the last couple of years. But when Barkley picked up his injury, not long after he joined, Jack went back to playing as a number 10 again. And he's always said he thinks he's a number 10 or a number 8. He doesn't think he's a left winger, but it's where Smith's been able to utilise him. And he is great in that position, and it is good. But he doesn't have the same break of pace that someone like Sterling will have on that left wing.
But Phil Foden's not getting a look in the midfield for you.
He's in my squad, but I wouldn't start him yet. Right. Not yet. It's got to be Grealish ahead of Foden to me.
Okay, Dave, what's your midfield 3, or is it 3?
Yeah, if say we're going 4-3-3, I'd play Rice in that hole, and then I'd have Mount and Grealish ahead of them.
Yeah,
I think we just have Mount just ahead of Rice. And then I think what Southgate likes about Mount is that he puts the yards in as well. He never gives less than 100%. His work rate's brilliant. He can work back. He can recover the ball. I think the only thing is I'll say that in a minute, and it's not. I think you notice it tonight when he was kind of. He plays in moments. He doesn't have the arrogance that Grealish has.
Right.
To get the ball and make things happen, and I think that's something that's kind of letting him down a little bit at times. For Chelsea, he tends to go missing a little bit in games, and then he'll pop up. But he doesn't.
That's probably him of the Lampard era. But I think under Thomas Tuchel, he's had a lot more advanced position, and he's creating so many more chances playing in that kind of role. So for me, if you're going to play him, he can't play further back. He needs to be right up against the front three and creating opportunities, because his vision's great. He's putting some fantastic balls through.
I just don't think he has the ability that Grealish has.
No.
So
I feel creatively, Grealish and Phil Foden are miles ahead of Mason Mount. Yeah. And even, to be honest, on recent form, Jesse Lingard, I think his creativity's been superb. So Mason Mount's probably playing catch-up. But he's a Southgate favourite, so he's going to be a starting player.
I think what Mount can offer, I think, is he can kind of arrive from deep, and actually get on the end of balls. Anything that kind of just play a little bit deeper. I'm not saying dropping back into a deep line midfielder, but I feel like he can play that sort of role, and I think that's probably what Southgate's looking at, is that he's actually versatile and he can play a number of roles in the team.
So Chris has commented again. By the way, Chris will be on the show another time, but he thinks that there's got to be a place for Henderson in this England setup, in any England setup, in the first 11. But he's shocked that you've not put him in there, Myles. Probably more disgusted that you haven't than shocked. But why no Henderson if he's fit?
So I'll be honest, I didn't even have him in my squad when I drew the squad out. Purely because, you know what? Me and Chris have had conversations about Henderson for years. And I do appreciate what he does as a leader on the pitch, but we've got enough of those in Harry Kane. If we bring Mings into the 11, I think he does that job very well. I'd like to think Maguire could step up and do that. I can't include someone for that. And essentially, you're asking someone to come in and play as a midfield role when they've been in a poor team this season, if we're honest, by their standards. He's been playing as a centre-back for a lot of it, so not even in midfield, and has had a lot of injuries. So although Henderson is widely loved by any Liverpool fan, I think now is the time where you think, I don't really think he's going to bring enough to the England side. To be honest, for me, if we were taking Mason Mount out of this team, and if this was the World Cup starting 11, it would be Jude Bellingham that got in ahead of Henderson. I think Henderson is falling further and further down that list with the season that we've had this year.
I think it's interesting you mentioned that he's played at centre back a lot. I think that will definitely go against him in Gareth Southgate's mind, because he's lost a bit. He's going to naturally have lost a bit of that natural attacking intent, because he's been so suited to trying to defend and mop up for his Liverpool teammates quite desperately.
Anyway, isn't he? I think he's injured anyway, isn't he?
I think he's touch and go. But I mean, if he's fully fit, I would definitely take him in the squad. But you're disagreeing.
Nah, I looked at it and I thought my midfielders I'd take were in the middle, Rice, Mount, Bellingham and Phillips, and then with Grealish and Foden alongside the players like number 10.
Dave, do you think Henderson's got a place in this England squad, or even the first 11?
If he's fit, I think Southgate will take him, personally.
I'm not asking Southgate, though. I'm asking you. What do you reckon?
You're not my childhood hero, Dave.
The only thing I can say about Henderson, especially at the last World Cup, I think he was, in a way, he was probably a bit unfortunate that he didn't really have that great midfielders around him. So the onus was on him a lot as one of those central midfielders to just provide a lot of the transitions upfield, and we were just blatantly weren't enough in midfield in the last World Cup, and that's where it cost us. So
Henderson, you're saying no, potentially.
What we've got there at the moment, I don't think it'll be a huge miss. I think that's what I'm saying with Mark. I think a prime Henderson, you're going to miss him, but he's nowhere near prime at the minute, so it's not really worth the squad place taking him, I don't think.
Southgate loves Ward-Prowse. I wouldn't take Ward-Prowse, to be honest. I'm still yet to be convincing him, but Southgate's got the loyalty from the under-21s. You got him. Eric Dyer is still always going to be in the conversation if Southgate's involved, whether he should be or not. He's been playing centre-back as well, but for some reason that doesn't matter to Southgate. And it's funny that a couple of years ago, the idea of Harry Winks not being in this squad would be alien to us, and now I can't imagine any looking. Dele Alli, gone.
Yeah, furthest from the squad he's ever been. I think with the talent we've been talking about so far, he's going to really struggle to get his place back. Let's face it. So
Barkley came to Villa to try and get back in the Euros. That's never happening. Like, it's a lot of players. It's a tough midfield, even though it doesn't really seem like a very quality one. It's an odd one.
It's a great attacking midfield, but I think defensively, I don't feel as comfortable with the quality we've got, which I suppose is why Southgate plays two defensive midfielders quite often, and he did it tonight with Rice and Phillips alongside each other. And for me, against Albania, why is he doing that? Just go for broke and just attack. He just doesn't trust his defence enough to kind of be shielded enough by the midfielders he's got, which is fair enough. So front three, Harry Kane starting. Yeah. Who's playing alongside him then, Dave? Which two are you playing alongside Harry Kane to support the attack?
If it was the Sterling of a year ago, I'll be playing Sterling on the left of him, but it's not.
Okay.
If Rashford's fit, it's going to be Rashford on the left, just because I think he's got a better relationship with Luke Shaw as well. They know each other inside out.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rashford on the left, definitely. But I would always put Sterling on the right, and just, they can both interchange, they can switch, they can cut inside. So I would still play Sterling. I still feel he's probably England's best player on form. Yeah. And he's not far away from form at the minute. If Pep Guardiola is still playing him week in, week out with his choice of attacking talent, then he must be doing something right.
I feel like it's just because Sterling's used to obviously playing that brand of football from Guardiola. When he comes to England, it's nowhere near the same level. And I just feel like if you're playing him off of the right, and I still feel like it needs to be experimented playing Foden on the right. I think a few more games.
Okay.
And if that fits, I'm still undecided a little bit on that front three, because I feel like is there too many similarities between Foden, Grealish, and then you've got Mount. I don't know if it's just going to get a bit too kind of claustrophobic in that area, a bit too. And
I think Sterling's got fantastic talent for putting the ball in the back of the net, and there aren't as many players who have got goals for England to call upon. I mean, he's got Harry Kane, obviously, who is going to be record goal scorer at some point.
I do feel like Foden does offer goals, and he has shown that this season. He's popped up with goals when Man City have needed a goal, and he can do something out of nothing. I feel like Sterling and Rashford are both a bit similar in that they're not clinical finishers, but they can also do something out of nothing. And I feel like we've got enough goals in Harry Kane. I think personally, we just need those goal threats around him. We've shown that we can create chances and we can score goals. It's just a matter of putting those chances away.
Myles, what's your thoughts then? Do you agree with Dave?
I don't even know if I agree with myself. I looked at what I wrote down earlier, and I looked at it then and thought, no, I don't even think that's right anymore. It's the front three is the hardest one to pick for me. Because we're blessed with a lot of talent, which is good, but also just trying to work out what's going to be complementary. That's one of the reasons I put Jack as number 10, because if you played him on that left wing, Foden would come in, and like Dave says, then you've got Mount, Foden and Grealish on the pitch. And even just having Mount and Foden today, they occupy the same spaces too much. Yeah. So if Jack plays as a number 10, I wrote down Sterling on the left and Sancho on the right, and I immediately disagree with myself. I'd probably put Sterling on the right and Rashford on the left, or I'd put Jack there. I really want to see Sancho do well for England. I really, really do. I like him as a footballer. I think he's a very intelligent footballer. I think he's done a really good thing by going to Dortmund. He started the season pretty poorly after the talk in the summer, and he's started to pick form back up now. And I would love to see him at the Euros. I think that would be great. So in an ideal world, I'd probably put Sancho on the right and Sterling on the left, but I think it will probably be Sterling and Rashford. You can't not pick Sterling. Sterling is the best English player we have, I think.
But I also think Rashford's undroppable as well. I think he's struggling for fitness at the minute. I think he's really tired. But I think he is, like Dave said, with Luke Shaw on the left-hand side, they've created the best of their attacking intent for Manchester United has come down that side. And it's been Marcus Rashford on the end of it usually. So I think for their chemistry alone, I would start both of them.
Rashford's the one for me that I could see dropping out of the 11, if I'm honest. I love Rashford. I think he's absolutely fantastic. But I think he could have a big impact off the bench. He could come on in place of Harry Kane as well if we need someone faster down the middle. And I think, particularly if you have the option of playing Grealish on the left, I think him and Shaw would work well together, because that's what Grealish does with Target at Villa. But also, Sterling, to me, Kane gets all the talk, rightfully so, because he scores so many goals. But I think Sterling loves putting on the England shirt as well at the moment, and he always seems to have the backing of Southgate, and I think rightfully so. I think he's probably technically Villa, England's best player these days. So Rashford is more interchangeable to me. Sancho's there. There are other players that won't get in the squad that you look at, and a couple of years ago you'd be dying for a left-sided winger. We didn't have a left winger for years. Stuart Downing's got way too many caps. You look at Hudson-Odoi is playing at Chelsea, playing good football. Like, he probably won't get a look in for a while. Like, Greenwood looked like he was going to break in at one point, and now he's so far down the pecking order. We are really fortunate there.
Yeah, I think for me, my front three would definitely be obviously Harry Kane spearheading the attack.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking Marcus Rashford would be a fantastic impact substitute as well. So I'd probably hold him back for when England are really chasing a goal or something like that. I love Jadon Sancho. I think he's got to start on the right. And for the left, for me, it's either Sterling or Grealish, depending on the opposition, because they both offer something different. Grealish unlocks defences. I think Grealish should be great against a really tight defensive team. And I do definitely feel Sterling's the best English player on his day in the squad. He's not on his day at the minute. He's very close. But I do feel like he's a definite starter for me. Rashford and in his position with England, it's mad to think that he's interchangeable, but it's just like you said, there's so many similarities in quality between so many different players across that position. It's difficult to pin down.
Do you know what? Go on. Just the other thing that I think might make a big difference, look at the way that Southgate likes to set up and look at how many goals we scored in the World Cup from set pieces, and then look at how many set pieces you'll gain by having Grealish in the side. Grealish is the most fun player in Premier League history.
That's a fantastic point, actually. And that's another reason why James Ward-Prowse needs to be in the team as well, in the squad, because if he's finishing off those chances, then there's going to be a few goals from distance as well.
Maybe, yeah.
Another point here from Chris. What are your thoughts on pushing back Kane to a number 10 and having Calvert-Lewin up front with Sterling and Sancho? Interesting take.
It's difficult. It's difficult because Kane likes to drop back to that role on his own anyway. But with the kind of attacking inside forwards that we've got, that's not such a problem for England. I think we've got too many valuable number 10s to even consider that. And Kane's best work is the fact that his finishing is incredible. I know he's doing well with his assists this season, and he obviously is a good playmaker, and you can see him doing that later in his career. But would you offer me a number 10 of Grealish and Kane in front, or Foden and Kane in front? Or Kane and Calvert-Lewin? It's not even a conversation to me. As much as Calvert-Lewin had a good moment, he's not. He's in the squad, but
it's a good backup. I think it's a healthy backup to have for Harry Kane. It's the closest in quality we've got to him, but Kane is not a number 10 for me. He needs to be spearheading off and finishing off chances from the players around him, because there's a lot of creativity. I think we've kind of picked a starting 11. Roughly, we're kind of in agreement for most positions. I think right back's going to be a headache for whoever tries to pick it. I think we've all picked a different right back. It's mad.
It's a nice headache, though, isn't it?
It is. I sadly, predictably, I know what Southgate will pick, and we will disagree with that as well. But what about the squad then? So I think the goalkeepers pick themselves. So you've got Pickford, Pope, and Henderson. Those three are by far and away the best English goalkeepers at the moment. Shout out to Johnston as well at West Brom. He's doing some good things too. So right backs, going to take two. Who you picking? Dave.
I'll take Reece James.
See, I'm surprised you put Reece James like first on your list. He's not even anywhere near my squad. I've got three right backs ahead of him. I take Trippier ahead of Reece James at the minute.
I would, if you're only going to take two, and say we've got four, and then you've also got Kyle Walker who can play right back anyway. So I'm taking Reece James, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and I'm taking Kyle Walker, who's going to be one of my centre back.
Okay. So I think you're in agreement with me here, Myles. It's Trent and it's Aaron Wan-Bissaka, right?
No.
You're dropping Trent, right?
Yeah, I'm not taking Trent. No. I would take Wan-Bissaka and Walker. Although when Dave talks about Reece James, he's the other one that I think I would like to have Reece James. I really like Reece James too. It's hard not to take him. And if you're going to take Walker as a centre back, then I would take Wan-Bissaka and Reece James. But the two that I picked when I did my squad were Wan-Bissaka and Walker.
So Walker's not got near my squad.
Really?
Yeah. So for my defence, I've got Trent and Wan-Bissaka at right back, Stones, Maguire, and Cody as centre backs. Although I think you persuaded me to pick Tyrone Mings ahead of Connor Cody. To be honest, I think I'll probably take him instead.
You'd only take three centre backs.
I would, because stay with me. I'll take Eric Dyer as a centre midfielder.
You mad? Eric Dyer. Come on. We've just lost all our viewers, Eric Dyer.
He's a useful player and he's got experience in caps, and I think that's what we're missing generally. We haven't got any utility players really at the moment, and I think that's been a position where I think we've needed some versatility as centre back. And if we've got someone like Eric Dyer who can switch between there and the holding midfield position if things get difficult, then that's, I think that's a comfortable alternative to have. And obviously, at left back, you've got Shaw and Chilwell. What are your centre backs then, if not those? How many defenders are you taking, Myles?
See, this one, I put 4 centre backs. I would like to take 5 because I think he'll play with a back 3 sometimes. But I put 4, and I put Stones, Mings, Maguire, and I want to see Konsa go. But Cody wouldn't be the worst shout either. I wouldn't mind Cody, but I would take Konsa personally.
Okay, Dave, what about you? Have you got any thoughts on centre backs that you would take?
I would go with the opening partnership of Maguire and Stones, just because I feel like that's the most tried and tested at the moment.
Yeah.
And then I probably would go with Mings, and it depends if, I don't know, if Joe Gomez is going to be fit or not.
You won't have played enough football.
Well, that's the thing. I think he's in a similar situation to someone like Henderson, where he's probably not played enough at a good level to get enough minutes as well.
I think I'd go with Kyle Walker instead, personally, because you've still got him to play at right back as well. If we're going to play a back 3, we're going to play 3 centre backs, I think Kyle Walker will play there.
Okay. So midfielders, I am thinking if Henderson's fit, I would probably take him. And I know you two disagree with that. Foden, Rice, Dyer, Mount, Ward-Prowse, and Bellingham.
I wouldn't say Ward-Prowse either.
What I saw of Ward-Prowse and Bellingham in the San Marino game, although it is San Marino, granted, I was really impressed. I thought Jude Bellingham, for 17 years old, looked like a player comfortable at that level. And he's going to be an England international for many, many years. But I think he looked comfortable now. I would honestly take him as a squad player right now, ahead of some more experienced players. And I think with Ward-Prowse, I'm a fan of him. He offers so much. He's a really dynamic midfielder. We've got too many midfielders, I think, who'll get bullied off the ball far too easily. He's not one of them. And his set pieces are fantastic. We've got no threat from set pieces like that. There's very few that hit the spot very often. Harry Kane fancies himself as a free kick taker. He's really not. But James Ward-Prowse, if he steps up, you've got loads of confidence in him hitting the target. So for me, that's my makeup of midfield. Dave, what are your midfield combinations? What have you got as your squad players?
I think the only thing you've got to say is if Bryce gets injured, then the whole team's screwed, basically. Because who's your holding midfielder going to be? If Henderson's fit, then fine, he can slot straight in. But if he's not, then you're back to playing Eric Dyer there. It's defensive midfield.
I would say Eric Dyer is the last sort of resort, really. Calvin Phillips is one that missed the cut for me because I'm just more keen to see this England team get forward more, regardless of who we're playing. And I don't want to see 2 holding midfielders really against anyone. What about you, Myles? Are you stacking the defensive midfield area, or are you going a bit more creative?
I think I've tried to find the balance of both as much as possible. Mine were Rice, Mount. I'd definitely take Bellingham. I think he's brilliant. I'd take Calvin Phillips, Grealish and Foden. I think the difference is you two probably put Grealish in as a forward, but I'd like to see him as that number 10. So yeah, I would take Rice and Phillips. I think there is definitely a place for 2. Look at France. They won the World Cup. And yeah, they had that great game with Argentina, but they did shut up shop when they needed to. Sometimes you got to know how to play the tournament. So I would take those guys. I like Ward-Prowse's set pieces, but it was interesting for me to hear you say that you think he brings a lot, because I've been looking at it and thinking the only thing Ward-Prowse brings is set pieces, and I don't think you could afford that.
No, I think he's one of these kind of unsung heroes in midfield, and Ralph Hasenhüttl rates him massively. He's one of his standout players, and if he rates him, this is a coach who really values, balance tactically in the team. I think he balances the team
twice in a year.
I like the guy. I think he's come up through the under-21s. He's probably one of our most capped under-21 players. I think he was captain of the under-21s for a while. So he's got a voice on the pitch as well. And I think as an option, if you're chasing the game and you've got Grealish up there as well, winning free kicks, I would love Ward-Prowse to be there to finish them off, because he will. He'll hit the target more often than not. Yeah. So that's my little love-in for James Ward-Prowse over. For forwards, again, I think these kind of pick themselves as well. I've got, obviously, Kane, Calvert-Lewin to back him up, Rashford, Sancho, Sterling and Grealish, all as forward players. Dave, what have you got for your forward players, and how many as well?
I've gone for strikers, so I've not I've got strikers instead of forwards. I've got Kane, Calvert-Lewin, Watkins, and then I've gone for, and I think I do purely for the fact that I think he's one of the players who can just create a goal from nothing, and is probably the best finisher at United. Even though I don't think stats obviously show it this season, but Mason Greenwood, even though I'd say probably the last 10 games has been United's best player on the pitch, and he's had a little bit of misfortune. I think he's at the bars, at the post. I just think his maturity in his game, his all-round play. He can link play. He can go past players. He can finish. He's the all-round package. I think he's probably a bit of a wild card. I think he's a bit of a wild card, but I just think he offers something different to what the rest of the strikers do.
He does, but I don't think he's a good fit for a Southgate team. That's the problem. I think with the system that Southgate has, he's got a lot of favour for players like Foden, like Mount, like Grealish, and I think Greenwood just doesn't fit into that. Maybe take him as an out-and-out striker, because like you say, he's one of the best natural finishers in the game we've got.
I'm confused by how many people Dave thinks can go in a squad, because he didn't mention Sancho, Sterling, Rashford, so he's not mentioned his wide men. So how many players have you picked, Dave? That was a lot of strikers.
What do you say to that, Dave? How many strikers have you got, and what are your strikers again? Run through them.
Strikers: Kane, Calvert, Watkins, and Greenwood.
Okay, so you're going to stack the midfield areas more.
Midfield areas, I've got stats. Defensively, I've got 7 defenders, I think. 7 defenders. 2 goalkeepers. I know normally they take 3 goalkeepers, don't they? But
I think you have to.
Blimey, I think 3 is the
registered
regulation. Yeah, I'm sure it is.
So there you go. There's where
he's throwing out the rule book here. He doesn't care. This is Dave's way.
I think me and Dave have picked the exact same forwards here, and then he added Greenwood on the end, and I was like, how has he got room for this?
The goalkeeper. He's lost the goalkeeper, hasn't he?
That's right.
Fair enough.
I'd probably get rid of Ward-Prowse.
Okay.
Sticking with all the forwards. Dave wants to see England play it line up as a 1-1-8 for the entire time.
Yeah, I was going to say, we were talking about balance earlier. This is stacked heavily towards the front end, Dave. Blimey.
Yeah. But other than that, I actually agreed with him. My forwards were Sancho, Rashford, Sterling, Kane, Watkins, and Calvert-Lewin. So I think we were nearly identical on it. And then he had Greenwood. I'd love to see Greenwood, but I don't think he deserves it right now.
No. Okay. Do you think there's ever a world where England are going to play with 2 centre forwards and like a 4-4-2 or something like that? Or are those days gone?
Do you know what? Mourinho did it with Spurs the other day with Kane and Vinicius. And I did think that might be the answer to Kane dropping deep. But then you get rid of having that number 10. And none of us have mentioned Maddison yet.
No, that's mad, isn't it? He can't get into the squad. I mean, I know he's in.
Wow, he's another one at Leicester. Harvey Barnes, he was the other one I looked at and thought, I want to get Barnes in. I want to get Bukayo Saka in as well, because he's very versatile. But I can't.
Yeah.
I can't fit him in. Like, I can't see 4-4-2 just won't fit the talent that we've got anymore.
No. It's not enough.
Good sense of that. We haven't got that.
No. Well, I think we've picked a squad roughly between us that's kind of similar. There's a few fringe players that are still kind of question marks about what they would offer to the squad. So, Ward-Prowse. I think we're ruling out a few players there. I can't hear any mention of Lingard. I can't hear any mention of Saka. Hudson-Odoi. Barkley's not been mentioned either. So, I think they're out of the picture, right?
But what I think is most notable, that we were undecided on Trent and Henderson, which would mean that we go to the Euros without a Liverpool player in the squad, because Gomez is. And if you'd said that last season, I think we'd have been laughed at, and rightfully so, definitely. But with the way
there's nobody who's in contention from a Liverpool perspective to get an England team.
Gomez would have been for me. Gomez definitely would have been for me. But and Trent if it hadn't gone the way that it had this season, but. Yeah. I wouldn't do it now.
I think what Saka falls foul of really is that he's a brilliant wing back, and then you could say, it'd also be an option for that left front position, but then also we're packed with talent in that, and so do we need him for that left front role as well? Probably not.
Yeah, true. Anyway, I'm going to call it a night now. Interesting talking to you guys. Thank you for your time. Anyone who's been watching, if anybody has seen our first ever broadcast, thank you for tuning in. We'll be back here again next Sunday, fingers crossed, with maybe a guest or two more, who knows. But for now, thanks, guys, and see you soon. Cheers.
See you later.